Yeah, man, look at this. I'm sitting here in my car and I am just a few feet away from the ocean. And it's a gorgeous morning, beautiful morning. The weather is so perfect right now that you don't even feel it on your skin. You don't feel heat or cold. You just feel nothing. And I'm in a really thin t-shirt and shorts, and it's absolutely perfectly comfortable. It's not hot, it's not cold. It's Hawaii, man. It's Hawaii. And this beautiful ocean. Oh, there's some, look at that. Someone's gonna go have, no, those guys don't look like they're gonna go have fun. They're wearing helmets. That's a rescue team right there. Yeah, that's a rescue team. I think they're training. I'm not too sure. Yeah, fire, yeah. Firemen on jet skis. That's Hawaii Rescue. Okay, so the big question is, can you afford living in Hawaii? And most importantly, is it worth it? That's what we're gonna find out today. You ready? Let's go for a drive. This place is called, I'm in a place called Mauna Lua Bay. It's on the southeast side of the island of Oahu, in Hawaii, of course, and it's a very popular. I mean, you could look at look at this parking lot. It's a big parking lot, big stalls. It's designed for boat launching. It's a boat launching harbor, and it's right next door to straight ahead is a little beach park where that little building over there is restrooms. It's a little beach park right by the ocean, popular for family parties, birthdays, and things like that. Beautiful part of the island. One of my favorites. Yeah. Okay. So I get all kinds of questions. Thank you all for sending those great questions. Please click on the link below in the description. There's a link to submit your question. I got all kinds of questions. Here, Judith from Los Angeles. She says, can I afford to live in Hawaii? I'm retired, divorced, and my income is $42,000. Okay, another one. Phil from Washington. He says, hey, how can I afford living there again? All right. Jim Brogan from the Philippines says, can I live there on $2,600 a month? What are food prices like at the grocery store? Like, do you go to Costco? I've got 11 kids, and I got to figure out if I can afford it. 11 kids, God bless you. How can I get a blue-collar job in Hawaii and financially make it? Another one, how do you live, they didn't even put it in quotes, how do you live well as a retiree on a limited budget? Are you struggling there due to high prices? Is Hawaii affordable for the working person? What's the cost of living if you're retired? And then finally, the one that really did it is, do you have real cost comparisons between Hawaii and the mainland? What's it like for food, living, insurance, housing, etc.? And here's the big one. And what is your opinion of what offsets the cost, and is it worth it? That's the question. And we are going to find out this morning on a beautiful drive. So come on with me. Aloha, I'm Peter Kay, and I've lived in Hawaii since the mid-'80s. And I am living the dream, man. I am living the dream. Because you know what I'm doing right now? While I'm talking to you, and hope you're enjoying it, look at this. You're gonna hit the ocean there. Feels like you're gonna drive right into the ocean. And we're right next to Hanauma Bay. Just to your right over there, is Hanauma Bay. And a beautiful spot, it's a built-in aquarium that you get to swim in. It's really awesome. Anyway, I'm living the dream. Look at this great view right here, straight ahead. This is the Kaiwi coastline. And look at this awesome cocoa head. People do this insane hike up there. Look at this awesome cocoa head straight ahead. It's amazing. I'm living the dream. I've been in Hawaii since the mid-'80s. And what I'm doing is I'm helping the right people move to Hawaii. Hawaii's not for everybody. I'm helping the right people move to Hawaii and make their dreams come true too. So join me. Okay, so let's hit the easy one. The easy one is Hawaii expensive? Can you afford it? If you haven't been told this already, Hawaii is super expensive and most people can't afford it. That's just a fact. But here's a rule of thumb. If you can figure out right away if you can afford it or not. Excuse me, I love this drive. Oh man, I love this drive. Oh, thank you. Just that little loop right there. That's amazing. Okay, so here's like an instant way that you can figure out, even get a rule of thumb. Here's what you do. Double your expenses today and cut your pay by 25%. One more time. Double your expenses and cut your pay by 25%. Could you still survive? Could you still survive? Because that's just about what's going to take in Hawaii. Hawaii is easily twice as expensive, and any given job is going to pay about 25% less than it pays on the mainland. This is a general rule of thumb. There's always exceptions. Always exceptions. This is a general rule of thumb. What if you can't? If you can't take that kind of a hit, well, could you? Could you reduce your expenses so much? Could you live on half of what you've got right now? Could you live on that? That's something to think about, because that's almost a good training ground. And I tell some people, look, do it now. Wherever you're living, do it now. Cut your expenses by half. Could you do that? And cut your pay by 25% and make ends meet. Because if you could do that, then you could live in Hawaii. There's some folks that say, hey, you know, I live in a big city, I live in New York, or I live in San Francisco, and it's super expensive. In fact, it's, you know, just as expensive as Honolulu. And you may be right. It's pretty close. And let's even say it's more expensive. But what's different is in New York, San Francisco, you make a heck of a lot more money on a given job than you would make here. So the rule of thumb is still the same. Double your expenses, cut your pay by 25%. Could you make it? And if you want to see if you can make it, test it out, and that is live with half of what you spend today and cut your pay by 25%. Pull that off and you can make it. And now, the big question we're going to talk about next is it worth it? And how do you know if it's worth it? How can you tell? I got some really good ways for you to figure it out. But first, I want you to join the community. You know, I'm building a community of people, like-minded people, that are moving to Hawaii and have moved to Hawaii. I've got online courses that are going to teach you in a few weeks what took me decades to figure out. We've got networking where you can connect with others in the community to help each other out, both before you move here and after you move here. I've got local resources. I got the best hand-picked people that I know that can help you with things like moving or housing, things of that nature, things that really matter that you don't want to make a mistake on. And finally, I've got a jobs program, can help you get a job if you're qualified. So click on the link in the description, sign up for the newsletter. You can always unsubscribe, and you'll be a part of what's going on. All right, let's talk about, is it worth it? How do you know if this huge expense you're going to have, you're going to have double the expenses, and you're going to make less? Is it worth it? But first, Makapu'u Beach. Okay. See, what I'm doing today is I'm killing two birds with one stone, right? I'm driving here because I'm going to go surfing. I'm going to go surfing this morning, and I made this video while I'm doing it. And we're going to check it out. We're going to check it out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going surfing. And through the magic of editing, you won't have to wait for an hour to get the answer of, is it worth it? Is the expense in Hawaii worth it? You don't have to wait. You just look right down there. I'm going to be down there. That's where I'm going right now. I'm going right there, man. Right there. And when I get done, we'll continue where we left off, and you will find out, is it worth it? For me, hell yeah. But why? How can you figure out if it's worth it for you? That's the question. And we're back, and we're done. And is it worth it? My God, what could be more priceless than going surfing before you go to work in the morning, like I just did? Yeah, it's worth it. But wait, so what we're talking about is, how do you know if it's worth it for you? It's worth it for me. I've been here since the mid-'80s. It's worth it, okay? I'm never leaving. But is it worth it for you? And how could you figure it out? You know, we call this the price of paradise. So what are you... It's paradise. Hawaii's paradise. What are you willing to pay for it? Now, there's a lot of folks. I'm recording this video in 2019, and there's a lot of folks that are leaving the state at, I believe they say, historic levels. For those folks, it's not worth it. How do you know if it's worth it for you? But yet others are staying. How do you know if it's worth it for you? Here's a really quick answer. Here's a really quick way. It's a simple question, but it's difficult to understand the answer. And that is, are you a materialist or are you a spiritualist? If you are a materialist, Hawaii is going to suck and you're going to hate it. If you are a spiritualist, this is the greatest bargain on the planet. Now, what do I mean by a materialist? I think you can kind of guess what that means, right? Doesn't mean you're materialistic. That's a pejorative, right? It's kind of a bad way. You're materialistic. No. Materialist means, what do you value? And materialist folks value physical things. They value homes. They value cars. And believe me, the irony is not missed. I'm driving in a nice convertible and you're saying, hey, aren't you a materialist? I'm not, but I'll talk about that later. You know, they're into cars, jewelry, nice things, nice clothes, etc. Those are folks that place value on material things. Not to say it's right or wrong, it's just a fact. And if you're a materialist, Hawaii is a terrible bargain. It's too expensive. Everything costs too much. Okay? So either you're going to be upset that you're paying twice as much for the same thing you can get somewhere, let's say on the US mainland, or because you may not be able to afford it, you're going to have to get something that's much lower in quality to get the lower price. Either way, you're not going to be happy, especially when you know that your friends and family on the mainland are getting a deal. They got it made. They're getting all these material things and you can't. And for a materialist type of person, that wears away at you. That wears away at you. And sooner or later, you're like, you know what? I'm done. I gotta get out of here. I had a friend of mine just moved back to the mainland, and he's been here for decades, okay? He just moved back to he was here in the military, stayed here for another 10, 15 years. Couldn't take it. Goes back. First thing he says, his first comment was, oh man, it was amazing. I went to the grocery store, I loaded up with stuff. I thought it was gonna cost $400. It cost me $175. Man, this is great. Here's a great example for you. Great example. So, if buying things and having stuff is what makes you happy, and there's nothing wrong with that, Hawaii is not the place for you. It won't be affordable and it won't be worth it. It won't be worth it. Okay, what if you're a spiritualist? What is a spiritualist? My definition of a spiritualist is that person which places higher value on non-material things. by definition, not material. So it's either spiritual or material in this context. Spiritual, for example, you place a higher value on friendships, love, closeness to God, a spiritual connection with life, nature. You love natural beauty, outdoor beauty, inner beauty. Those sort of things, those are spiritual type of things. And if you place a much higher value on immaterial things versus material things, Hawaii's a deal. It's a deal. Because we've got that in spades. We have natural beauty everywhere. We have the spirit of Aloha. The spirit of Aloha is love. Closeness is to one of the meanings for the word Aloha is to joyfully share the breath of life. So we've got that in spades here, and it doesn't cost you anything. Right now, I can look at this amazing view, this beautiful view of the ocean right here, and it doesn't cost me a penny. I went body surfing this morning, and it wasn't that great, but it was awesome. Physically, it wasn't that great. The surf was small, it was kind of crappy. There was Portuguese man of war in the water, it's kind of scary, but it was awesome. I was in the water, I'm like, man, I'm so glad to be here. What would I pay for this? And my answer is everything, because I wouldn't care about the material things. I wouldn't care about the material things. I care about the spiritual. My life, much higher value on the spiritual things. I know I have a convertible, it's material, I know, but I have the convertible because I love the open air driving experience. I have the convertible because I have got the top down. I thought about this. I got the top down. I could enjoy the beauty of the place, right? I don't want the air conditioner on. It's an older convertible too, actually. It doesn't have all the fancy gadgets on it. No, but it's a great way for me to enjoy a spiritual connection. Every time I'm in this car, I'm outside. I'm enjoying natural beauty. I'm enjoying natural benefits. So another way to look at this whole thing, if spending money on things is what makes you happy, you will hate it here. If spending money to stay alive, if money for you is, let me put it, here's another way. Another way to put it is, if spending money and buying things makes you happy, having money makes you happy, this place is not going to be good for you. If, on the other hand, you see money as a necessary tool, we live in a modern world, if you see money as a necessary tool to stay alive, to buy groceries, to be able to put a roof over your head, etc., but that's not that important, Hawaii could be good for you. Now, what's interesting is that when I moved here, in the mid-'80s, over 3 decades ago, I didn't know if I was a spiritualist or a materialist. I had no idea. Looking back on my life, my entire life has been spiritual, but I never really thought about that. It's only after I got here that I realized it. And you too. You may or may not be a spiritualist or a materialist. So we're going to talk about what this means to you. Are you a spiritualist or are you mentalist? What does that mean to you? But first, hey, look, if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to the channel, I'm going to shame you into subscribing. No, look. If you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and get the notification. I usually come out with a video every other week. It's all about Hawaii. So if you love Hawaii, everything about Hawaii, hit subscribe and let's stay in touch. Okay, what does this mean to you? I'll bet that most folks are going to say, oh, I'm not a materialist. And that may be true. But unless you've gone through it, I don't think there's any good way of knowing. And see, the thing is, our Western life, our Western society is so unbelievably wealthy. It's unbelievably wealthy. We take so many things for granted. You might think you're a spiritualist, but you're really a materialist. You might think you're a materialist, but you might be a spiritualist, because we're so well. Here's what we take for granted. Here's an example. full shelves on a grocery store. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever wondered why the shelves on a grocery store are always full? Why the produce section is overflowing with food? We take that for granted. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen by magic. So we live in a society with an incredible overabundance of material things. We've grown up in this and we take it for granted. So since you live in this world of incredible material abundance, how do you know you're not really relying on it? How do you know if you're a materialist or a spiritualist? Not easy to find out. But here's one way to find out. Cut your spending by half. Cut your spending by half. Could you do it and be happy? Could you cut your spending by half and be happy? Could you cut your living space by 50%, by half, and be happy? Could you live in half the place you're living in now? If you could live in half the place you're living in now and spend half as much as you're spending now and do it on a sustained basis and be happy. Look, anyone can do it. The question is, can you do it and be happy? You might be a spiritualist. And for the final piece, cut your living space by half, cut your spending by half, and cut your pay by 25%. Go get a job paying you the same job paying you 25% less. Could you do all that and be happy? If you could do all that and be happy, yeah, you could very well be a spiritualist, and Hawaii might work for you. I believe that in today's world, very, very, very few people are truly happy with a significantly reduced material life. And that's understandable, right? It's nice to have these material things. It's nice. And it's really hard to maintain this when your friends are on the mainland and you see your friends on the mainland with all these nice things and big house, good paying job, lots of nice things, and that's tough. That's tough to keep facing that. That is tough to keep facing that. And now with social media, of course, we're all going to tell everybody about it. That's tough. So if you're going to be happy in Hawaii for the long term, the essence of it is you're going to essentially have to give up the material things. And I would say, just to make it simple in your life, give it all up. You're going to live in a much smaller house. You're going to live on much less stuff. You're not going to have nice things, not like your friends will on the mainland. And here's what the whole thing comes down to. You're going to have to fundamentally change your lifestyle, and you're going to have to embrace much more of a spiritual way of life, and much more of a immaterial way of life. A life that's not based on material things, a life that's based on spiritual things, a life that's based on taking in natural beauty, love, family, relationships, people, community, giving to your community. These are things that are of value in Hawaii, and these are things that are easy to do in Hawaii, and that Hawaii has in abundance. What Hawaii does not have in abundance is material wealth. We don't have it. It's scarce, which is why everything is so expensive. I hope this really helps you figure out if you can, number one, afford Hawaii, and number two, most importantly, is it worth it? Is it worth it? That's what you'll be facing. So hey, leave me some comments. I'd love to know what you think about this video. Make sure you subscribe, get the notification. Let me know what you think. Is Hawaii right for you? Has this video changed your mind? I'd like to know, actually, here's a good question for you. What has this video done to make you think differently? Has my video made you think differently about Hawaii? About what will be faced if you decide to move here? What you'll have to give up, and how you feel about giving that up. All right, folks, this is Peter K. Aloha.